On Nota Bay, St. Mary, deadly vehicle crash in St. Anne, and warning from the local government minister about politicizing road projects. There's also Saturday sports special and weather in this newscast, but I'll have the news in detail right after the break. Welcome back to Primetime News and a special welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. We begin this evening with a developing story. The police have arrested a suspect in connection with this week's murder of Police Constable Darren Henry in the car park of the Terra Nova Hotel in St. Andrew. We have more in this report. The suspect was picked up last week shortly after the shooting. An illegal gun and the getaway car have been seized in the investigation being conducted by the Major Investigation Division, MID. The cops are searching for 3 other suspects. Constable Darren Henry, who was attached to the Motorized Patrol Division, was fatally shot by gunmen on May 22. The constable, who was on suspension from the force, was working as a security guard at the Terra Nova Hotel when he was confronted by a group of men sitting in a car near the casino on the property. The men opened fire on the constable, killing him on the spot. Other armed security guards challenged the men, and this led to a gun battle. One of the gunmen was held on the compound, while the others fled in the getaway vehicle. The illegal gun was seized in the car park. Constable Henry's gun was found beside him. Following the shooting, it was discovered that a second man had been shot and injured. He was taken to hospital for treatment. Over in St. Mary, residents in Nota Bay are calling for an urgent meeting with the police to discuss crime in the parish. It comes on the heels of 2 killings in less than 24 hours, as TVJ's Anthony Lugg now reports.
Heavy patrols and increased police presence following 2 brazen attacks in the small town of Nota Bay, St. Mary between Friday and Saturday afternoon. In the first, 22-year-old Akeev Wilson was shot and killed by armed gunmen while standing in the town shortly after 3 Friday afternoon. His sister spoke with our news team.
I work me there and get the call. Work me have to run up my igloo and everything. Not even my money that me not get for collect. My whole body a triple, cause me don't know how this. Them kill my brother, but Father God not sleep. Yeah. I cried enough already and I can't cry no more. I'm sorry for my mother, but I saw it go. My mother, your own blessed. Remember me tell you. But God not give you nothing more than what we can bear, and we have bear this too.
But while the police continued their investigations on Saturday, they were called to another crime scene shortly after 1 along Purcell Lane, which is just meters away from where Friday's incident occurred. An unidentified man had to be rushed to hospital after unknown assailants shot him several times. Residents are calling for a meeting with the police.
We have to try as best as possible to cauterize the situation. We have to do something. We need to meet as leaders of the community with the police, the stakeholders, the business people, and all of the concerned citizens. We need to meet and meet now to do something about it.
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
In Clarendon, 1 week after residents of Canaan Heights expressed concern about crime and violence returning to the community, there was another fatal shooting last night. 3 people were shot, 1 fatally. Richard Hall, a laborer from the community, was killed. A 35-year-old laborer also from Canaan Heights and a 21-year-old carpenter from Coates Pen in Clarendon were injured. The police report that about 11:45, the 3 men were walking in the community when they were pounced upon by men armed with guns. The men opened gunfire, hitting 2 of them. Mr. Hall attempted to flee and was chased. He was shot in the head and upper body. Mr. Hall was later pronounced dead at hospital. On May 18, a couple was found dead in a house on Lloyd Davis Street in Canaan Heights. The bodies had bullet wounds. The police said that they were not from the community. The Justice Ministry says it's making headway in the reduction of the backlog of cases in parish courts. The media was provided with an update at a press briefing held at the ministry this week.
It's a problem which has spanned decades, the backlog of cases in the courts, which many have described as a major contributor to the slow pace of justice in the country. Director of the Justice Reform Implementation Unit, Athia McBean, says there's a targeted effort to reduce the backlog, starting in the parish courts. The plan is for a 20% reduction per annum. She insists it has been working, arguing that in 2014 there were 33,000 cases in the parish courts. In 2016, the backlog was reduced to 30,000.
So as at the March of 2018, that backlog had been reduced to 22,000 cases. And so there was a reduction there of 25% in the backlog, which was substantial. All the judges and court staff worked assiduously to reduce the backlog in the parish courts.
Emphasis will now be placed on the other courts.
What needs to happen now is for a definition of backlog in the Supreme Court, and the minister has repeatedly said that cases really should be completed within 3 years in the Supreme Court. So if a definition is agreed, then targeted focus can be placed on the backlog in the Supreme Court, and the Court of Appeal also has, although a lesser number, but also a backlog.
For his part, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck warned that the issue of case backlog will not change overnight.
I suspect, even when I leave this ministry, that there will be a backlog problem. The truth of the matter is that even the developed countries, you're going to have some backlog, but we have to make a start to ensure that these cases can be dealt with within a time frame.
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
Attorney at law in real estate Jennifer Masado has been slapped with additional fraud charges. Mrs. Masado was charged on Friday with breaches of the Forgery Act by detectives from the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigations Branch, CTOC. She's now been charged with forgery, altering forged documents, and attempting to obtain money by means of forged documents. She was granted $100,000 bail and is to appear in the St. Andrew Parish Court on June 1. The allegations are that on March 26, she visited a prominent financial institution in the corporate area, where she tendered a signed letter to the manager of the institution with the signatures of 2 persons. The letter reportedly had certain instructions allowing her to conduct business on behalf of the complainants. Checks were made, and it was discovered that neither complainant gave Mrs. Masado permission to conduct business on their behalf. On May 15, during her appearance in the St. Andrew Parish Court on similar charges, the court was told that CTOC detectives were opposed to her being granted bail as she was being investigated for other matters. However, she was offered bail in the sum of $800,000. She is to return to court for that matter on July 3. Mrs. Masado is charged jointly with real estate broker Beverly Barakat. There's been another deadly motor vehicle crash in St. Anne. One man is dead while another was rushed to hospital in critical condition following a 2-vehicle collision on the Landovery main road in the parish this afternoon. He's been identified as 45-year-old mechanic Vincent Palmer of a St. Anne's Bay address. He died after his Toyota Corolla motorcar collided with a grey Honda Accord. The driver of the other vehicle, which was traveling towards Runaway Bay, received injuries and was taken to hospital. Mr. Palmer's employer told our news center that he left his garage to get parts in Brownstown when the crash happened. It is suspected that speeding caused the mishap. Traffic was backed up for miles as the police and fire personnel tried to clear the wreckage from the roadway. At least one business operator in Negril says he's been affected by the massive morass fire along the Norman Manley Boulevard, Negril, today. The fire, which began early Saturday morning, saw persons running for cover as smoke covered the area. After several hours of burning, the fire came under control. We spoke to the Vice President of the Negril Chamber of Commerce, Richard Wallace, a short while ago.
So there's nothing more no more fire. So it's moving away back inland now. You can still hear the crackling and you can still see the smoke and fire, but it's going away from Norman Manley Boulevard now. It's going back into the inland.
Now, TVJ News understands that firefighters responded and have been monitoring the situation. Mr. Wallace says, though the fire is under control, he's extremely concerned.
We're in the hospitality business, and you don't want to get complaints from your guests. And certainly when these things happen, you get complaints. I mean, I lost business today because people were coming to my restaurant and they turned back because of the smoke, because they didn't want to dine in an area where there's so much smoke and soot flying around.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie says while there's been an increase in the allocation for the rehabilitation of parochial roads, he's urging councillors to be fair in the selection of projects. We have more in this report. Bad roads, angry users. This has over the years led to demonstrations in parishes island-wide. Then the dispute over who is responsible for the road, the National Works Agency or municipal corporations. For roads which fall under the responsibility of local government, the minister, Desmond McKenzie, says efforts are being made to fix them, but there are issues.
And what makes it more challenging is the continuous rainfall that we've been having. So today you repair one road, 2 weeks' time the rains come, and also the question of the quality of the work is also brought into focus.
The minister noted that for the last 4 years, all that has been provided from the Capital A budget from central government for parochial roads is $19 million. But there has been an improvement in the allocation this year.
This year, we have gotten not 19 million, but we have gotten 110 million. And we're going to be finding another 90 million from the Equalization Fund. So we will have about 200 million in the ministry to play around with, to complement what the MCs have. But remember now, 200 million still can't do all the roads.
Mr. McKenzie also addressed concerns about the selection of roads to be fixed.
We have used that money in a non-partisan way. It was not allocated to municipalities that are predominantly GLP. It was split right down the middle for both councils, for both municipalities controlled by the GLP and those controlled by the PNP. And I spoke to the mayors and I insisted that there should be a level playing field.
Local government is responsible for 22,000 kilometers of the country's road network. And that concludes the local segment. After the break, we have news from overseas. Please stay with us. Primetime News brought to you. Welcome back to Primetime News. Time for developments overseas. For that, we turn to the CNN.
In Ireland, hundreds are gathered outside of Dublin Castle to celebrate a yes vote victory. At any moment, we expect the official results of a referendum to reform the country's abortion law. Exit polls indicate a majority of voters are in favor of overturning the 8th Amendment. South Korea says its president met with Kim Jong-un for 2 hours on the northern side of the demilitarized zone. The surprise summit is the second time the two leaders have spoken face-to-face. The talks come amid uncertainty about how or if the summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un can actually be salvaged. The White House is proceeding as if the summit could still take place as originally scheduled. An advance team is set to leave for Singapore this weekend to get things ready should the summit be revived. Mr. Trump tweeted that productive talks are underway on reinstating the Kim meeting. An American held prisoner in Venezuela is headed back to the U.S. Josh Holt and his wife Tammy have been detained since 2016. U.S. President Donald Trump announced their release just a short time ago. Holt's family expressed their gratitude, calling their freedom a miracle.
And the Primetime News package continues with Saturday's sports special after the break.